Hello, Oakview families. It's Mr. Gaudet. I'm here with the Oakview Return to School, the sequel. I did a presentation back in the fall when students first returned to the building. Um, so some of those guidelines are still the same, but some of them have changed. So I wanted to review them with everybody here today. Um, you'll be getting this video along with a link to just the slides so that you can review it at your leisure. So we're going to go ahead and get started. And this presentation is specifically geared for those students who are returning to the building. So that's pre-K to 3 every day, and then the 4-5 students in cohorts. Schedules. So our school hours remain the same, 9:15 to 3:45. This is a picture from Wake County that has the second semester dates and highlighted with remote learning or work days, holidays, vacation days, that sort of thing. This picture is a hyperlink. So if you click it, it'll take you directly to the Wake County page so you can actually see it and it's not super tiny. Remote learning asynchronous days. These are going to continue the second semester. As of right now, these are the asynchronous days. Now, I do want to say that the county is looking at adding more remote learning asynchronous days. We don't know what that would be. We imagine if they were added, it would be on Wednesdays. But again, as soon as we have received that information, we will share that out with families. But as of right now, these are the remote learning asynchronous days for the rest of the year. So on these days, remember, there's no students in the building. It's not live instruction. Teachers are posting asynchronous work that's to be done at home, and this should reduce the amount of screen time and enable kids to get outside and get away from their computers for a little bit. And that'll be a nice break as we are quickly approaching the spring with warmer weather. Oakview Changes updates. So we are still going to be maintaining social distancing throughout the day whenever possible. Eating lunch in the classroom and in the cafeteria. This is a change from when students were first here, where we only had students eating in the classroom. With more students back in the building now, we have to utilize larger spaces like the cafeteria. And there'll be some more slides on eating, and I will explain exactly how we're going to be safe and healthy in the cafeteria. Recess is going to continue to be outside, including the use of the playgrounds. Students will now be traveling to specials classes. So before, when they were back in the building, they were still accessing their specials teacher via a computer that they had in front of them or the big screen that the teachers had posted in front of them. Now they will actually be walking to their specials classes just as if this was a regular non-COVID year. We are still going to minimize transitions as much as possible. Students are still required to wear face covering throughout the day, except for the specific COVID face covering breaks. And parents and families will not be allowed in the building. Student accountability and required health protocols. This is a link to the Wake County, just some helpful information about returning to the building. There's a lot there, too much to put into slides. This information is directly linked to the Return to Campus Family Guide. Then there's also some great resources on this Return to Campus checklist that the county created. It's got some social stories for students and acclimating back into the building, face covering expectations, some more information about technology. It's good to click on and just go through some of the links there. We are still going to complete a daily symptom screening and temperature check. We're still, again, kind of reiterating and emphasizing wearing a cloth mask throughout the day and maintaining social distance throughout the day and washing hands frequently, sticking to those 3 W's. All right, morning carpool. Now, the procedures, when we had them first started in the fall, it took a little bit to get everything aligned and move quickly. I was a little slow at first, but by the end of December, we were able to get kids in the building pretty quickly. So most of these are the same, but I just want to highlight a few things. Cars will be asked to pull into the screening spot. So all along the side as you're coming to the school, we try to get 7 or 8 cars in a row. It just depends on how many people we have out there today to take temperatures. Make sure you're not attempting to pass stopped cars because we have kids that are going to be crossing across the crosswalk and we don't want to put them at risk. So it'll be single file, waiting to be screened in cars before cars are moved forward. Students will remain in cars until they've completed and passed the health screening. All parties in the vehicle will be asked to wear a mask. This is for the safety of those in the vehicles, but also for the safety of our staff members. Families will be asked to roll down the passenger window, and then we're going to ask the health screening questions. Now, the student can answer the questions or the parent can answer the questions too. And no must be answered to the following questions to pass the health screening. So no COVID, no symptoms, no temperature. And I put a link here also that has the specific questions, COVID questions, we call them. And in order to expedite the process, when the staff member comes up to your call, they'll say, can you answer no to all the COVID questions? And so if you're unfamiliar with the COVID questions, make sure you take some time to click that link to look them over. Again, it's really no COVID, no symptoms, no temperature. After completing the health screening, temperature checks will be taken. So we have the forehead thermometers and the staff will be taking temperatures there. Students must exit the car on the passenger side. We don't want them walking around the front of the car because that's dangerous. And make sure you're working with your child on getting buckled and unbuckled because, again, doing these screening checks slows down carpool. So the quicker we can do the questions, the temperature check, and getting students out of the car, the more cars we can get through and get students to their classes on time. All right, temperature checks. The car door may be open to assist with temperature checks. Staff member will check temperature. It has to be 100.3 or lower. And if it's 100.3 or lower, they may exit the car and proceed to class. There's hand sanitizing stations before they get into the building. If students' temperature is 100.4 or higher, they will be asked to proceed to the visitor parking. And usually that's me out in front. I'll be guiding you into parking spaces out in front of the school. And you'll have to wait for 5 minutes before getting temperature checked again. If the second temperature indicates a temperature of 100.4, the person will be sent home. So, and that's the whole car. It's everybody. It's not just if one student fails, the other students who pass can come into the building. It's the whole car has to pass. So if the second reading, when we send you over to the visitor parking, is 100.4 or higher, you'll be sent home. And we'll give you some documentation information about next steps, what to do and how to get back to Oakview. If the second temperature is 100.4 degrees or lower, 100.3 degrees or lower, then you'll have to get a third temperature check. You need to have 2 good temperature checks once you've been sent there. So you'll have to wait another 5 minutes and then somebody will screen you again. And if the third one is good, then you'll come in the building. If it's not good, you'll be sent home and getting some documentation related to how to return and how to proceed. This is going to be a big one at the bottom. Vehicle heaters impact temperature readings. We noticed this as the weather got colder in the fall. So if you're waiting in carpool line and you got the heat cranked up, and then it comes to you and you put your window down, a lot of times the people taking temperature can really feel the blast from the heat, and that is impacting their reading. So we ask that if once you come into the park into carpool, if you turn off the heaters to ensure that there's not extra temperature or extra raised temperature in the vehicle itself, that will help. Because if we get a false reading, we're going to have to send you to the visitor parking space to wait 5 minutes to get rechecked. We've also noticed that this can happen sometimes with hats. If students are wearing wool hats over the forehead, when they lift it up, the forehead may be warmer too. So we have to follow the protocol. So if the temperature is 100.4 or higher, we have to send to the visitor parking lot. If you get 2 readings, you can't come to campus that day, and maybe not for a longer period of time too. Again, that's going to be based off some of the documentation that you will get. So be sure that you're doing everything, that you don't come in with a warm car, and that students are ready for that forehead temperature reading. Afternoon carpool. Same thing, all parties in the vehicle should be wearing a mask. Make sure you're hanging that carpool tag in the rearview mirror so it's visible. When we have the person going up, they're putting that into the system so that the students will know when their car is here, and then they can go out to get picked up. Students will remain in class until their number is posted on the screen at approximately 3:45. So we assign the number that we see with a colored owl. So once they see the number, they'll see it associated with a color owl and they'll report to that owl. So as kids get into cars, we want to fill up all of the colored owls. And then once all the students get in the car and leave, then the cars pull all the way up to the front, and the staff working outside will guide you all the way up front. And then the next group will go in so that the colored owls align with the car that's supposed to be there. And that will be helpful and, again, expedite afternoon carpool. Sometimes we post the student's carpool number, and for some reason they're not paying attention, they don't see it right away, and so that can hold up carpool. So if you are in a spot and your student isn't out there yet, we'll give it maybe a minute or so, and then if they're not out in time, what we'll do is we'll ask you to park in the visitor parking spot, and then we'll radio the main office to call that student out to carpool. So that's the reason why that you may be asked to pull to the visitor parking lot. Again, we'll do our best to maintain social distancing. There's a lot of staff out there. Again, students we want entering during or on the passenger side, so they're not walking in front of cars. And do not attempt to pass stop cars. There's a lot more activity opening and closing doors in the afternoon because we're kind of mass getting into cars. So again, let's do single file just to keep it safe for the kids. Morning walkers, same. This is the same procedure as it was in the fall. We're asking parents and guardians to accompany walkers, make sure they're wearing masks. We're going to complete the health screening with the questions and the temperature checks by the playground. If students pass their screening, they will proceed to the rear entrance of the building. And if they fail, they're going to do the same procedure for carpool failures, where they're going to have to wait 5 minutes to get rechecked. And again, they're going to need, if they fail the first time, they're going to need 2 good temperatures, 100.3 or lower, to enter the building. Afternoon walkers, all family members need to wear a mask. Again, families will meet their child by the playground. Students must be accompanied by their guardian to leave campus. Buses and cabs, face coverings must be worn on the bus. Families need to complete that bus attestation form prior to students riding the bus. We sent out a message, or I sent out a message for the families that we were still missing that attestation form for. And this is a link to that attestation form. So if you click that link, you'll be able to do it online. Students will be seated on a bus to maximize social distancing. Students will have their temperature checked at school as they get off the bus. And then the buses are cleaned and disinfected between routes. And we actually store the cleaner on campus so that the bus drivers can get it and clean it after they drop off the Oakview students and move on to the next school. Breakfast and lunch. So this is kind of where we have the newest protocols and procedures for health and safety. The new health and safety measures for eating and drinking at school. This was shared by the county and sent to all families. So that's a link to that document here. Breakfast. Students who choose to eat breakfast will eat in the cafeteria. And remember, till the end of the year, breakfast and lunch is free for the entire year. So if you would like your child to eat breakfast, that is great and wonderful, and we encourage them to do so. So we're going to do breakfast in the cafeteria now moving forward. So we have designated paths in the cafeteria that have arrows so they'll know where to walk. We also have staff in there that will guide students where to sit. Students will sit 6 feet apart. Seats are marked with an X. And if you were to look in the cafeteria on the normal tables, there is an X, and then you have 2 blank stools and then another X. So there's a lot of distance, more than 6 feet between seats. And then also with our students sitting in the cafeteria for breakfast and for lunch now, there are going to be no students on the other side of the table. So there's no students facing each other. So all the students are facing the same way, and they're going to be 6 feet apart. When they finish eating, they will report directly to the classroom. Again, this is for breakfast in the morning. Lunch in the cafeteria. So our cafeteria in a non-COVID regular normal year probably can sit close to 300 kids. And so capacity now is down to 60 students. Again, that's to ensure that there's 6 feet and that there's no students eating apart from each other. Students will only have their face covering removed while eating. So we have, again, admin is assigned to cafeteria duty for the rest of the year. So we have procedures in there for students to all sit down in their designated seats first to get all their lunches ready, bags open, cut, ready to go. And then we will have signals for students to remove their mask and they begin eating. And then as soon as they finish eating, they can put their masks back on. Again, we want the least amount of time as possible with mask off, but we understand that students need their masks off to eat. So, but we have procedures for that. We have the staff in there to support that. The way we have the cafeteria set up is going to maximize social distancing, and again, not have students eating across from each other. Now, because we can only fit 60 students in the cafeteria, we are also going to have to use classrooms for lunches. So lunches will be delivered to classrooms. In 4th and 5th grade classroom, students will be able to eat in the classroom at the same time. Because 4th and 5th grade students are all in cohorts, there's a few enough students where you can space them apart 6 feet. Now in pre-K and 3rd grade, classrooms still will have staggered lunch because all students are back. So what does that mean? So in a kindergarten class, you might have 18 students. Well, based off of the size of the room, we can't separate 18 students with 6 feet of social distancing for food. Now, luckily, our lunch times are 45 minutes long, which is a very, very long lunch, much longer than normal. So what we are going to do is half the class in pre-K and 3 are going to eat at a time in the classroom where they're 6 feet apart, facing the same direction. After they're done eating, they're going to switch places with the students who weren't eating. The students who weren't eating are going to be working independently. So whether that's maybe doing some Dreambox, doing some iStation, watching a video, reading, and so it's going to be half the class will eat first, the other half will be working independently, and then they'll switch, and the second half will eat. This has nothing to do with recess time. This is just lunchtime. We have 45 minutes for lunch and then 45 minutes for recess. So we have enough time to do the switch. And again, we don't need to do that in 4th and 5th grade because the numbers are smaller based on the cohort, so they can all eat at the same time. Students for recess will have a mass break at recess. The 11:30 to 1 o'clock time period will include recess and lunch. Your child's grade level will dictate whether they have lunch or recess first. Kindergarten 1st and 4th have lunch, then recess, and 2nd, 3rd, and 5th have recess and then lunch. We are utilizing the playground equipment. Students will wash and sanitize their hands before and after recess. Students are still not being able to share equipment outside, and if they choose to, just like they did for the fall, they can bring an item for recess, but they shouldn't be sharing that item. So we had students bringing chalk or, hula hoop or jump rope or different things that they were bringing out for recess. And I know that we were concerned in the fall about what that would look like, but I can tell you from being out recess quite a bit that the students definitely enjoyed themselves and were able to play and interact and still be safe. So, and I think, again, as we're moving towards the springtime, I'm excited that kids are going to be outside more and having more activity. Water fountains. Students are encouraged to bring water bottles to school. We'll have cups if they don't bring a water bottle so that they can fill them at the bottle filling stations, and we are still not using water fountains. Technology. So students with Wake County Chromebooks need to bring them to school every day. Students may bring their personal non-Wake County device if parent allows. That's your decision. If you choose to send them with a device that's not a Wake County Chromebook, you can do that. You don't have to do that. Teachers will provide devices for students who don't have their own device. And again, we will not be sharing devices. Again, we're going to do, students are going to pretty much have their own thing so that there's not exchanging of materials throughout the day. Main office, just a couple of reminders. Make sure you call the main office by 3 p.m. with any transportation changes. This lets the teachers know how students are getting home. If you need a new carpool number, call the front desk and the number's there, or you can email Miss Stia, the receptionist, and that's her email is there. And we're continuing, there's still no food and drink being allowed to be dropped off at this time. All right, that is it for the presentation. A lot of information there, a lot of links to it for you to check things out. I'm sure that there's things that I didn't cover that you have questions or concerns about. So what I've done in the presentation is this is a link to a Google form. It's a very generic Google form with just spaces for questions that you may have. So if you do have additional questions, if you click that link and you type in your question, you can type up to 5 questions, and of course you can submit multiple responses too if you have more than 5 questions. What I'll do is I'll see those questions, and then I am posting a questions and answer spreadsheet to the More Awesome News every Sunday. So what I'll do is, as the questions come in, I will answer them, and then it'll just kind of be like a live feed of questions and answers on that More Awesome News. So every week you'll get new questions and new answers. So this is not just a kind of one and done Google form where it's just questions for kids coming back next week. But as things come up, it's just a good way, an easy way for you to submit questions. And a lot of times you have questions that a lot of our families have too. So it's helpful for you to ask and then for everybody to see the responses and answers on Sunday evening. Thanks as always for your support and your flexibility. Super excited that kids are coming back. I can't wait for next Wednesday. It's good. I know that the staff here at Oakview is very excited for them to come, but I also know that they've been very thorough in their precautions and aligning to all the safety and health concerns that people have with kids coming back in the building. So I feel very confident that we're going to have a great second semester. And if there's anything else that we can do, don't hesitate to reach out. As always, you can email me. My email address is dgaudet@wcpss.net. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of the week.